Have you ever felt invisible, even in your own home? Like you were there, but not really seen, not really heard, not really chosen? This is the psychology of the ignored child. And no, this isn't just about obvious neglect. Sometimes the ignored child grows up in a normal family, food on the table, school paid for, no major drama. But emotionally, they were background noise. And that changes a brain forever. Let's decode it.
They become hyper-independent, but not by choice. Ignored children learn something very early. Don't expect help. When their feelings are dismissed, when their excitement isn't acknowledged, when their pain gets a "you're overreacting," their brain adapts. Psychology calls this avoidant attachment. It's a defense mechanism. Instead of reaching out and being disappointed, they stop reaching out at all. They become mature for their age. They solve problems alone. They don't ask for advice. They rarely say, "I need you." From the outside, they look strong, but inside, they learned that depending on others is unsafe. So they build walls. Not because they're cold, but because they once needed warmth and didn't get it.
They struggle to feel important. Here's something subtle. When a child is consistently ignored, their brain starts forming a core belief: I don't matter that much. This isn't dramatic, it's quiet. In psychology, this connects to self-worth theory. Children develop self-esteem based on how caregivers respond to them. If your thoughts are interrupted, if your achievements go unnoticed, if your emotions are minimized, your brain records it. And later in life, this shows up as downplaying achievements, feeling awkward receiving compliments, overworking just to feel worthy, or staying silent in group settings. They may be talented, smart, deep thinkers, but somewhere inside, they still feel like a side character, not the main one.
They become experts at reading the room. Here's the irony. Ignored children often grow up to be extremely emotionally intelligent. Why? Because when you don't get attention, you start observing. You study facial expressions, tone changes, micro reactions. This is linked to heightened sensitivity and adaptive social awareness. As kids, they learned, if I can't be heard, I need to predict. So they become people pleasers, peacekeepers, the quiet observers. They know when someone is upset before anyone says a word. They can sense tension in seconds. But here's the cost. They're amazing at understanding others and terrible at expressing themselves. Have you noticed how some people constantly shrink themselves? They apologize for talking too long. They laugh nervously after sharing an opinion. They hesitate before sending a message. Ignored children often internalize this belief. My needs are inconvenient. This connects to learned helplessness and emotional suppression. If every time you expressed something and it was dismissed, your brain adapts by lowering your volume. You stop asking for reassurance. You stop sharing random thoughts. You stop demanding attention. Because somewhere deep down, you fear being too much. So you become less loud, less needy, less visible. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Ignored children grow into adults who fall into one of two extremes. Some avoid attention completely. They hate being in the spotlight. They prefer staying in the background. Others, they crave validation intensely. They overachieve. They seek praise. They feel restless when unnoticed. Both reactions come from the same root: unmet emotional recognition. In psychology, this is linked to compensation behavior. When something essential is missing in childhood, the adult personality either rejects it or chases it. But both patterns are coping mechanisms, not personality flaws. They have a complicated relationship with love. Love feels confusing for the ignored child. If someone gives them too much attention, they feel suspicious. If you really knew me, you wouldn't care this much. If someone gives them too little attention, it feels familiar, safe, predictable. This is attachment theory in action. Many ignored children develop avoidant or anxious avoidant attachment styles. They struggle to fully trust emotional closeness. They might pull away when things get serious, test their partner unintentionally, or stay in emotionally distant relationships because it feels normal. They don't fear love. They fear abandonment, and sometimes they abandon first. But here's the powerful part. Ignored children often become incredibly self-aware adults. Why? Because growing up unseen forces you inward. You think deeply, you analyze everything, You develop rich inner worlds. Many writers, artists, deep thinkers, and independent creators share this background. When the external world didn't validate them, they built an internal one. And that inner world? It becomes strength, resilience, creativity, emotional depth. The pain doesn't disappear, but it transforms. Now, let's pause for a second. If you related to this, it doesn't mean your parents were evil. It doesn't mean your childhood was a disaster. Sometimes caregivers were stressed, distracted, emotionally unavailable. Sometimes they simply didn't know how to validate feelings. But here's the truth psychology makes very clear. Your emotional needs were valid.
Being ignored doesn't make you weak. It makes you adaptive. You survived by adjusting. The question now is, will you keep surviving or will you start healing? Healing means learning to express needs without guilt, receiving compliments without deflecting, asking for help without shame, believing that your voice deserves space, because it does. The ignored child learned silence. The healed adult learns expression. And maybe this video wasn't just information. Maybe it was recognition. If this made you feel understood, if you saw yourself in these patterns, then you're not broken. You're aware. And awareness is where change begins. Subscribe if you want more psychology that decodes human behavior in a way that actually feels real. Because sometimes, the most powerful thing isn't being loud. It's finally being seen.